To recreate a given molding profile in SketchUp, I normally start with a small offcut of the molding and a piece of blank printer paper. My first step is to create accurate horizontal and vertical reference lines by carefully aligning a framing square at the corner of the paper, and then tracing along the inner edges. These lines not only help me orient the molding on the paper, but will also allow me to check the orientation once it's been scanned and imported into SketchUp. For this crown molding, I'll leave the square in place and use it to help me position the molding sample correctly, tracing down the back edge and along its profile. The last step is to take a measurement of the profile so we can scale it correctly in SketchUp. I've found that it's best to use the longest measurement possible to prevent any cumulative error. In this example, the crown measures 3 5/8. Once the tracing is complete, I'll scan it and save it as a JPEG on my computer.
Once you've got the image saved on your computer, it's time to open up SketchUp and then import it into the drawing. To do that, I'll go up to File and then down to Import. Once this window opens, you'll be able to navigate through the directories on your computer and find the place where you've stored that file. I'm in the right folder right now, but I don't see any JPEGs. That's because the folder is being filtered just for SketchUp files, so that's all I'm seeing are the SketchUp files in that folder. If I click the down arrow here, I can go down to JPEG, and then that'll show me the JPEGs that are in this folder. Here's our profile sketch, and I want to make sure I'm importing as an image and not a texture or a photo match. I'll go ahead and hit Open, and that'll bring the image into SketchUp. I'll left click once and then pull out to stretch the image. I'm going to make it a fairly good size, and then left click once again to set the image. To start tracing, I'm going to go ahead and start with a top view. I'm looking straight down on the image, and I want to make sure this scan didn't get skewed when I put it into the scanner. And to do that, I'll just use the tape measure and pull off one of the axis lines, and then move it over top of this reference line that I drew with the framing square. And it looks like we're pretty good. Now I'm just going to back up instead of erasing that guideline, and I'll start the tracing process. And the first thing I'll do is select the line tool and get rid of the simple line work, which will be starting up here at this front corner, and then tracing across here, just trying to split the line as best as I can. I'll come back down the back side and down to the bottom, and then straight out here in the red direction. You'll notice that this profile wasn't really very crisp. These transitions are kind of eased over. I'm not really worried about trying to trace over that portion of the drawing. That can simply be eased over with some sandpaper once the molding is produced. But what I want to do is find where that arc in the cove should end, which is probably about right here. And then I'll switch to the arc tool, click onto the endpoint, and move up here to where the cove portion should end. Probably right about there. And then it's just a matter of bulging out until I've got the line I'm drawing pretty much centered on top of that traced cove. Left click to set it, and then we're back to the line tool to draw up the fillet. And I'll draw up to at this point. And now most of the easy work is done. We have to produce this S-curve next. And this molding is kind of a Greek molding. The curves here are more elliptical in shape than constant radius arcs. You can do this with the native tools in SketchUp. It's just time consuming and a little bit difficult. Thankfully, there's an extension available in the extension warehouse called Bezier Curves, and this will allow us to reproduce this S-curve fairly easily. Once you've installed the Bezier Curve extension, you'll be able to find it in the Draw menu under Bezier Curves. And the first thing you'll notice when you open this tool is down here at the bottom, we've got a input in the measurement toolbar for degrees. This is the number of control points that you'll use to create this Bezier curve. The default is 3, and that's normally where I'll leave it for an S-curve like this. You can play around with it, add some more control points if you've got a really complex shape. but 3 will do it for us right now. I'm going to start the curve by left-clicking on the endpoint here, and then I want to make sure I'm aligned along this front fillet, so I'll just hover over this point for a second or two, and then I'll be able to inference and pull straight down to where it should end. Again, this corner is a little eased. I'll left-click once, and as I pull out here, zoom in, you'll see I'm able to create some more organic shapes. I'm going to pull out right about here to start, and then up probably somewhere about there. That'll do it. Now, I got pretty close on the first attempt. It takes a little practice, and thankfully once this line is drawn, you have the ability to go back and edit it. And it's actually easier to shape the line once you've got it set. And to edit, you just select it with the select tool, and if you right click, the context menu will come up, and we'll go to Edit Bezier Curve. And now I can orient these control points. I'll hover over this point for a second and grab it with the left mouse button, and then I can readjust it and bring that curve back in. So now we're splitting the line. Remember, this grayed out area that we're tracing over is actually the thickness of a pencil line, so we don't have to be that accurate. Once we're done, I'll just left click out here, and we're ready to continue with our face. I'll close it off by using the line tool and clicking from the top point there and to the end point of that S-curve we just drew. And now we've got a face created. If you use push-pull on this face, you can see we've got a pretty good crown molding profile. I'm going to back up again because there's one more thing we need to do. This molding is not to scale right now. If I use the tape measure tool and measure from this point back to this point, you'll see I'm about 20 7/16 of an inch. If I left click once, I can now re-enter the measurement that I actually want in the measurement toolbar. So we measured this molding and we found that it was 3 5/8, so I'll type in 3 space 5/8 and hit enter. This window is going to pop up and ask us if we want to resize the model. Yes, and you'll see that the molding looks like it disappeared. It actually just got smaller, and it's down here. So at this point we don't need the guide anymore. I can delete that, and I can select my image and delete that, and I'm ready to do a full-scale printing of this profile so I can test it and make sure that it's accurate enough. Over the years, I've received a few emails from people that have had problems printing full scale in SketchUp. So let's take a minute to go through those steps real quick too. The first thing you'll need to do is select one of the standard views. In this case, we're going to use a top view so we can look straight down on the molding we're trying to print. The next thing to do is to get rid of any perspective in the drawing. And to do that, we'll go to the camera menu and then select parallel projection. From here, we'll go to File and then down to Print Preview. The first thing you'll need to do is uncheck these boxes here, one for Fit to Page and one for Use Model Extents. And now we'll be able to adjust the scale in the printout to match the scale in SketchUp. If you find that this boxed area here is grayed out and you don't have the ability to edit it, that's probably because you're either not in a standard view or you don't have the parallel projection set in the camera menu. So once you've got both of those selected, you'll be able to edit. So we'll change the in SketchUp to 1. So we've got 1 inch in the printout equals 1 inch in SketchUp. And we'll go to OK. And this is the problem that I hear most people complain about. This profile has been printed on 2 pages and it's actually split right down the middle. To understand what's going on here, you have to realize that the print function in SketchUp works just like print screen. So everything in this modeling window is being printed full scale. So any blank space around the profile you're trying to print is also being printed in scale. You can use the Zoom Extents tool to try to crop the image as tightly as possible, and that'll probably work for this molding profile, but if you have a large, narrow profile like a baseboard, sometimes that's not even enough. And in those cases, what you can do is go to the Restore Down button and bring the window in so that you've got as much of the blank space around the profile cropped away. Now if we go to File, Print Preview, we'll go ahead and hit OK. And if we go back to one page, you'll see the molding profiles now centered on the page full scale. So once that's done, all we need to do is print it out for real. Take our molding profile and set it on top of the printing and see how close we got.